guys, hope you're having a great day. I had no idea that Christmas trees are grown in every single US state. And Christmas tree farms are one of the few industries still run by American families. This is just one smarter fact I learned speaking to Doug Hundley. He's the seasonal spokesperson for the National Christmas Tree Association, and that's a group that represents these Christmas tree farmers. Doug has worked as a Christmas tree farmer himself, but he's also interacted with Christmas tree growers for years and years as part of the Ag Extension Department at North Carolina State University. So he's a great person to talk to about one of the most recognizable signs of the holiday season. I started with the most pressing question of them all. Do you have a live Christmas tree in your house right now, Doug?
I haven't got it in the house yet, but I will. Yes,
Well, it
I'll
must
have to.
Yeah, it must be
Yes,
an interesting experience to actually shop for a Christmas tree with someone that knows something actually about Christmas trees. So can you
it's a little. It's probably different. Yeah.
can you share any tips with us about how you go about picking out your Christmas tree based on what you know?
Well, I think it's common sense stuff. Most Christmas trees, well, not most, virtually all Christmas trees that are used in the United States are grown here,
I was
and they're.
actually I was actually surprised to learn that on your website. And you're right, your website is full of a bunch
Uh-huh,
of really cool facts and tips. And I mean, I
good.
really encourage people to check it out. I didn't know that Christmas trees were actually grown in all 50 states. That really surprised
Yes,
me. The country can have a lot of differences, but it's nice to think that Christmas trees are something that we all have in common
that's right.
in all of our states. So one of the reasons I reached out to you is because I was reading this article in the Miami Herald, and I actually have seen it several places since then, talking about
Yeah.
a Christmas tree shortage this year in the United
Mhm.
States and giving the reason that it's a byproduct. One of the reasons is it's a byproduct of the financial crisis in 2008. And I'm just curious on
Mhm.
your perspective. Is there really a shortage of Christmas trees in America this year? And is it tied to the financial crisis?
Well, the answer to that is no. There is not a shortage. We didn't have a shortage last year either, even though it was publicized as being one. What we've had a couple of years in a row now where our supply is just meeting our demand. The fact is that between uh, 2005 and 2015, we had we had more trees than we needed, and we had an excess of supply. And what we've done is we've lost that excess now, which is actually a good thing because when you have too high of a supply, the prices are going to drop. The farmer may not be making a profit, and trees are thrown away. So we have a much healthier market right now because it's supply demand balance.
And is part of the reason for the healthy balance, did farmers have to adjust just considering the economy over the last, from that time period, that
They
decade that you
did.
mentioned? I see.
They did. They adjusted for two reasons. One is that they weren't making. They didn't have the cash flow to plant as many trees when they were not selling as many trees. But also, most tree farms are on a limited amount of acreage. It might be 10 acres, might be 5 acres, it might be 100, but they have room for so many thousand trees, and they will only plant back when what they have room to plant back. So if you sell 3,000 trees, then you can plant back 3,000 trees. So when we had the recession of 2007 and 8, and we weren't cutting and selling but 2,000 trees instead of three, for instance, they were only planting back two.
Got it.
So, and it takes what people really don't realize is that it takes 8 to 10 years to grow a Christmas tree. That's how many years they have invested in that tree.
It must not
Uh,
be an easy business then, because I think about, crops that turn over every year or multiple times a
yes,
year. For a tree farmer to think that far in advance and have to plan, that really,
it's
is
Yes,
something, isn't it?
it is. It's a lot to ask of people.
Yeah.
And most people, when they get into it part time. They'll have a full time job and they'll have a few acres of land that they want to do something with, and they'll start planting it. And for 10 years, they won't make a dollar. All they'll do is spend money.
Where did the Christmas tree farmer even begin, Doug? Do you have any sense of the history of how Christmas tree farms even started in America?
Well, I do. There has been a horticulture industry in the United States for a long time. It started in the 16 and 1700s when we started growing apple trees. And I'm not really talking about old Johnny Appleseed. I'm talking about the early nurseries of the Long Island area. I think it was called Prince's Nursery in the 1600s. They were growing apple trees for people, growing fruit trees and small fruit plants like grapes and blueberries and such. Um, that type of agriculture has been around for centuries. The Christmas trees were realized that it was a sellable hort crop back in the early part of the 20th century, say the 1920s and 30s, in the Northeast, and it was brought into production by those horticulture people.
Interesting. So now
Mhm.
you have all these different farms. That's such a cool fact to know that there's no major Christmas tree plantation that
That's
dominates
right.
America, that these are all really small family run businesses.
They really are.
I'm
They
cur-
really are.
I'm
Yeah.
curious just hearing about that. I can't help but think about the wildfires in California,
Yes.
and also think about some of the terrible storms that we had, gosh, not too far from probably where you live now in North Carolina, Doug. How has the weather this year and some of those natural disasters affected the crops?
Well, fortunately for a crop like Christmas trees, and we have an 8 to 10 year life cycle. Um, we can have dry weather or wet weather that interferes with planting of trees. We don't irrigate Christmas trees. That's one thing we're proud of. We don't have to. We're not using the groundwater to irrigate our trees. We can pretty well grow a native tree to the state we're in. Well, so if it's dry, if we go through a really dry spring, we could lose 10, 20, 30% or more of our crop that year. If we do, we're out a little money and we have to replant. But we once a tree gets established after say the second year, it handles drought and floods and cold and heat fairly well.
Hmm.
Now, I understand, and this is truly sad that there was at least one member of the National Christmas Tree Association who did lose his tree farm in the I think it was in the was it the Paradise Fire,
Oh,
the Camp
yes.
Fire in California?
Yes, that's
There
it.
was, I think there was a tree farm there that was wiped out. Yeah.
And like you said, it's so hard to recover from that because it takes so many
Oh, that's
years.
yeah, that's a total loss. Yeah,
Oh my
that's
gosh.
different. That's very rare though. We're in. What I'm saying is we're lucky in that way.
Yes, that's
Um,
interesting. I didn't think about it because obviously when you have a you bring a tree home, and I did that for many years with my family. You watered the tree. I mean, we kept fresh water for the tree in the house, and so
yeah,
it never dawned on me that you wouldn't water a tree that you were growing on a Christmas tree farm.
yeah. We usually are growing the right tree for the right environment.
So, what would you say is the biggest obstacle then facing the farmers that are a part of your association?
Oh, it's the artificial tree. We're selling less real trees today than we were uh, 40, 50 years ago, and yet our population has grown at least 100 to 150 million people. Today, our numbers, our survey numbers estimate that close to 75% of the homes in America that have a Christmas tree are using an artificial tree.
75%?
Right, right.
Wow.
And that means that there's all those millions of homes that are not going to buy a real tree as long as they have that artificial tree. So
What?
we have lost sales in the last 50 years, but we still have our market. But if it hadn't been for the artificial tree, we could be growing maybe 50, 60 million trees a year and selling 50, 60 million trees a year, which we're not because of what the artificial tree has done to our business.
Well, now I feel bad, Doug. I was telling you earlier that we had this little artificial tree because my kids are 4 and 2 years old, and I just don't see having a live tree in our house. However, this conversation and learning more about the Christmas tree being a real, authentic American business is sort of changing my mind on that. I have to tell you, I might have to just you buck up and get a real tree and just deal with the toddlers around it.
Well, if you get a tree with soft needles and not going to have a sticky tree, of some type, it should be a soft landing, I would think.
Okay, well then I'll hold you to that, and I'll send you photos
Okay,
of photographic
good.
evidence. Okay, wait. Well, before I
Good.
let you go, I just have to. We never really got to the most important question, which is, and you don't have to
Yes.
tell me all your secrets, but can you just
Okay.
tell me one secret that you have used to picking out the ideal Christmas tree for your house?
Yeah, sure. So you want to handle the tree. You want to not just look at it, but you want to run your hands over the foliage. You want to grab the limb and pull it through your fingers and notice what condition the needles are in. Are they pliable? Are they soft to the touch? You don't hear them breaking in your hands. You don't find that you have needles in your hand doing it. You want to make sure they're staying on the limb and feel comfortable to you.
It's a personal relationship, is what you're saying.
That's right. That's right.
That's right.
Handle the tree. Don't be afraid to handle the tree.
Do not be shy.
Don't be shy.
That's good, Doug. Thank you. Thank you to Doug Hundley of the National Christmas Tree Association for the SmartHER tips, and thank you for supporting SmartHER News. If you have any story ideas or current events you would like to see covered, email us, info@smarternews.com. I'm Jenna. Hope you have a great day wherever you are, and we'll see you right back on smarternews.com.